Welcome, and you're listening to the Mantic Universe Podcast, but you're also listening to the Manticlore Podcast.
What's up, Chris and Clem?
Hey, buddy, great to have you on. I think, obviously, there's talk at the moment of an It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and Abbott Elementary crossover episode, but obviously this is the crossover episode that everybody is looking forward to. Am I right, guys?
Absolutely.
I've been looking forward to it. My goodness.
Well, there we go. 100% of people agree. Perfect. Super. So, guys, we're here tonight. Very excited to finally get the crossover episode done, or the second crossover episode, I should say, done. So, what we're doing is essentially the Mantic Universe Podcast is creating a 3-game mini campaign for the Manticlore Podcast to play. And obviously, dear listener, we'd encourage you to play along and learn from our mistakes as we go. And hopefully we can all have a lovely time together. We suck at the official lore. And so we kind of make up our own little stories on the go that could conceivably fit, right? The Mantic universe has plenty of space for all of us, right, guys?
That's kind of the strength of it, at least from my perspective. And you could also always use narrative tricks so that whatever you say is still canon, because reality is subjective in sometimes. And so, that's kind of what we're going to do also here for the quick campaign.
Allegedly can carry a lot.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. and
also, guys, this could be someone's memory. This could be somebody exaggerating a story in a space bar, in a space station. It can be whatever we want it to be. It can be a space turtle's dream. So, totally. It's our game. We've paid the money for it. And we're going to have fun as we want to with our toy soldiers. So, guys, we had a few there was a few requirements for this. So it was to play as marauders and enforcers. Now, the first thing I thought about doing, of course, was to play the Mandrake Rebellion, which would be the obvious thing to do, which would be cool. And then I realised that the Manticlore Podcast almost certainly knows a lot more about the rebellion than I do, and they're inevitably going to catch me out on my lack of knowledge. So I backed off of that idea pretty quick, although I think it's something that would be super cool to do going forward, guys, once I've repainted my Marauders. Super. So we focused on... So basically what happened was I procrastinated for ages, and then I got Clem to do it. Right, Clem?
Yes, but what we're doing here as well is kind of like trying to share what we do when we do gaming weekends together. And the way it usually works is we say, we're going to play a narrative game next weekend, or like in 2 months when I come visit, or when you come visit. And then you and I, have other stuff to do. And then we prepare nothing. And then the night before, we're like, oh shit, we need to do something. And then we come up quickly with a few ideas. And then slowly, all of this emulsifies into a good background, and we have a lot of fun. And so we're trying to do exactly this here. Except we prepared a little bit more before, sort of. And it's a bit of an experiment. Because I think a big part of when we play our narrative campaigns, Chris, is we also adjust in real time. Kind of like what you said, like the dice tell the story ultimately, right? So you just want to have some seeds of a story, like something that gets you into it. And then I think what really makes it fun is when you can play along and improvise, or realize, okay, you had some idea going in, and then how the actual game develops will inform the narrative, and you can adjust the narrative to just that. We'll experiment something slightly different this time, but
I think
very
as well,
excited about it.
People might think that this is really scary and complicated and difficult when it's absolutely not. You just need to be relaxed and have a sense of humor about yourself and just go with it, right? As Clem said, right, let the dice kind of tell the story. If one faction gets badly beaten in the first game, that's cool. Just lead into that with the second game, and just make sure everybody's having the best time possible. Like just it doesn't matter if it logically makes sense. You can make anything make sense, right? Just make sure that everyone's having a great time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I like. Sorry, go ahead, Clem.
No, please go ahead.
So in like TTRPGs, you get tabletop role playing games like D&D or Pathfinder or whatever. You have this improv theme that is often referenced called a yes and or no but, right? And it just keeps things flowing where, oh, this army won, okay, and also, or this army lost, okay, you didn't win. However, and it just keeps things rolling, and when we have these multi-part campaigns, it helps things to flow a bit better, and you can come up with new ideas and what's the silver lining, or what's the drawback, or stuff like that.
Absolutely.
I think that's a great point. Yeah.
I think also it's almost important to me that we don't over prepare, because you don't want to script things too much. Ultimately, what we want to do is still play the game and play interesting scenarios and games and so on. So it's not really about who wins or loses, obviously.
Exactly.
But it's really about, giving life to the game that you're playing, and, maybe choosing different pieces of terrain from your collection when you set up the table, because it tells a better story, or it fits more the story that you imagined initially, and then it's something that you build on over time. So you don't want to prepare too much, and you definitely want to build it as you play with your opponents.
Yeah, and I think if you just ahead of time, Clem, just have a vague idea. So if you play a game and there's 3 binary outcomes, right, of win, lose, draw, so you can have an idea. Okay, if so, for example, I'm thinking about an Antares campaign, right? One of the scenarios is this hated general who's getting everyone killed is going to be, these rebels are going to try and assassinate him. And so there's kind of 3 possible outcomes, right? One is he gets assassinated, so I can have an idea of, okay, well, what's going to happen next, right? The second one is it's failed and he doesn't get assassinated. Well, how would he respond to someone trying to kill him? Presumably they attack the rebel camp with overwhelming force. And the third one is kind of something in the middle of, okay, well, it was a close game somehow. I mean, in this situation, it's pretty binary, but, maybe he gets badly wounded. What would then happen? So just going into it, I think it's a good idea to have an idea where you want the story to go, but don't put too much effort into it, and don't put too much love into your story that may never happen, may never come to pass, right? It's the sliding doors moment of the game is going to lead where the story goes, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. And so to come back to the campaign that we prepared for you guys, as Chris mentioned initially, there was obviously you play enforcers and marauders, so these two are, they have to be factored in whatever we play. And then the rebellion is the obvious first choice, but then it's maybe something that you guys can explore already. You don't really need us to come up with a poor understanding of the actual events. And so instead, what we thought about is, there were events during the summer of Sci-Fi Campaign. And both Chris and I know a bit more about this because we've done an episode where we talked about it. So at least this part we have kind of in mind. And so the plot idea is we thought of exploring the Tertia Prime events a bit more. And really the starting point is, why the heck would there be marauders and enforcers involved on Tertia Prime? And of course, I think every single time we do Warpath story narratives, our favorite bad guys, the Mason Labs, are involved. And that's about it. That's the starting point, right, Chris?
So already, Clem, so brilliant. So we've got 2 factions fighting against each other, some kind of nefarious baddie who's hovering in the background, who's a pretty common one with our stories, let's be honest. And we've got a location. So that's very important. Obviously, you can have multiple locations. If you've got 3 scenarios, you could have 3 locations if you really want to. But I always think it's good to set it in a place and try and ground it and try and get a sense of that place over the 3 games.
Yes, and also kind of give a motive to every army. Like for me, it's always kind of important so that I can have some immersion. If I play the Marauders, why is my faction on this location and about to fight? What's their motivation? Why are they even there? What's their mindset and so on? And for me, that's almost enough of a starting point in a way. and then the rest I can come up with as I play the game.
Sweet. Yeah, that sounds awesome. We had talked about doing it on a different planet before, but when you guys said Tertia Prime, I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, when we did our crossover Tertia Prime, I don't know if it had even been announced at that point. I forget, but I was really looking forward to that. So Tertia Prime sounds like it'll be a really good setting for us to play on with all the drama that's been there. It sounds like you guys have put a lot of thought and love into this.
I'll just jump in, sorry guys. One thing to think about is obviously, dear listener, what kind of terrain you personally have.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, I think Tertia Prime is big enough that whatever terrain you have, you can make it be part of Tertia Prime. But of course, you can always maybe use this as an excuse to build more terrain, or pick among your collection terrain that fits better the theme that you have. Yeah, absolutely. And so another thing I wanted to mention is, as you said, Chris, we both kind of suck at the actual details of the canon lore. And so some of the story, one of the narrative tricks is to tell the story from the perspective of the rebels on the planet. And so if anything is inaccurate or kind of wrong or sounds weird, well, it's not our fault. It's their accounts of the events that just are what they are. And from this, I think is a fun and useful trick, because it really frees you to tell whatever story you want to tell. Obviously, Mason Labs are what they are, so you won't change them all around. But if you want to take some liberty about how the enforcers or the marauders or Mason Labs or whatever would behave, well, it's allowed, right? Like, there's not an
unreliable
police that will show up.
Exactly.
They won't show up to your door and say, "Oh no, that's not how marauders are." So just don't do it. You have freedom to tell whatever story you want, obviously. And for me, all of the lore, when I'm about to play games like this, is more seeds that I use and seed my imagination from. So yeah,
love it.
So how will this work? What we'll do is we will give an overall, context fluff for the campaign, and then a short intro fluff and scenario information for each game. And the idea is we will record everything today in this episode, and we will have, a very clear, okay, if you want to participate, you should stop listening now and go play game 1. Because, dear listener, if you want to actually participate to the campaign, like play it at home, you're most welcome to do so. You might have to adapt some of the stuff if you don't play Enforcers and Marauders, but that's okay. It's just all of this is just an inspiration for you guys.
And I'm just going to say that's super easily done, guys, and that's no barrier to doing this if you don't have these two factions. You can have another faction which is allied with one of them. You can, whatever you want to do, please get involved.
Exactly. You can, take some ideas and just shake them around and then just use them for whatever you like. And
everybody was on Tertia. So
exactly. Yeah. Overall, ultimately, all of the factions have some sort of involvement there. And so you can figure out how to, reuse all of this and then play your own stories there. And so,
if you want, we can talk a little bit about our army lore in how you might shoehorn in a separate faction. Like, I think there are different ways you can do it if you wanted to add that in.
That could be an interesting thing to do. Yeah, we could do that if you want. We can do the overall fluff intro and game 1 intro, and then we can discuss about, okay, how would you do this with a different faction or something. Maybe. That could be interesting.
Sure.
That could be interesting. And the other thing I'd say is, dear listener, if you're stuck, just get in touch with us. There's no issue as well.
Absolutely. All right, and so we will record all of the fluff intros for the 3 games today in this episode, so pause it if you don't want to get spoilers at the right time. We'll give you a good warning about it. And we will record another crossover episode after you guys have actually played the games to debrief and discuss and see how it went.
Sweet. And if anybody wants consultation or to chat about the Firefight, Dead Zone, Warpath lore, the Mantic Discord has a Warpath narrative or Warpath lore sub-channel that's really good. We have discussions on there. You can hit me up at the Manticlore Den Discord. Those links are in our episode descriptions, and we can talk there as well.
I mean, it's a best spot to bounce ideas about coming up with your own campaign, like we're doing today, right? If you want to run ideas by other people that understand and know the lore, interested in the game, that's the best place to do so. So I think you guys should really go and check it out. Absolutely.
Yeah, Claudio and Wiki Dave are on there as well at the Manticlore Den every once in a while. So we have our professionals.
Yeah, Clem, they're the people that actually know what they're talking about. That's obviously not us.
Yeah, these two guys don't know anything.
We will be back after these announcements. So, Clem, if people are listening to this and are interested to play along at home, what do they actually need to do to start the campaign? They need a friend. Do we need to just tell them what table size they need, points, or anything like that?
To be honest, it doesn't really matter for the campaign. Like the campaign fluff and description is vague enough that if you have 2,000 points of armies, you can use that. If you're just getting started and you have 500 points, it will work just as well, right? So there's not really a question of, you absolutely need to have this size of table and this type of terrain and this army and that army. You could just basically take what you have, and if you happen to also have marauders and enforcers, great. You can right away just use exactly what we're doing with what you have. If you have different factions, then you'll probably need to adjust it a little bit, but again, not that much potentially. So yeah, it's quite easy actually to join along.
So, dear listener, this is the overall intro now to the campaign. So this is our little bit of flavour text to get us involved. The Reb's internal report. Our observers report that a company of marauder mercenaries have been deployed on Tertia Prime to protect the Maison Labs factory for several months now. We have been trying to gather intelligence on this sector of the facility for quite a while, but it is still unclear to us what exactly is going on in there, nor what is worth protecting with external mercenaries on a planet like Tertia Prime. After weeks of careful and patient observation without making much progress on this intel mission, suddenly fighting with an unknown force attacking the facility has been a staggering development. Ooh, Clem. Interesting.
Yes. So, as we mentioned, it's just the rebels on the planet are trying to figure out what's going on around, and they can see that there are some marauders, mercenaries protecting in areas, and they don't really understand what's going on. But they cannot go in there and try to figure it out, and so they just observe and don't know what to do. And then someone like a sudden fighting force lands on the planet and assaults the marauders brutally, and the rebels are just observing what's going on and
some
quite
problems
shocked.
just solve themselves. Yes, it's Clem. I tell you what it's like. It's like if you've ever seen the Road Warrior / Mad Max 2, when Max is staking out the oil refinery, and then suddenly the crazy biker gang attacks with their humongous. Just walk away, that stuff. It's brilliant.
Yeah. That is not where I took the idea, but yes, that's a good image. So, yeah. Do you want to read the next one or the next small brief? Or Zach, do you want to read the Marauders brief?
Sure, I can. I was just going to say this is already sounding great. I can already see where the unreliable narrator is coming in. The Rebs from an outside have no idea what's actually going on here. So I was telling Chris and Clem about some of our earlier games when we were practicing, and we had practiced a game where we were fighting over a Maison Labs, and the Marauders won that one. And so the Rebs are coming in, and they're just seeing the Marauders there at the Maison Labs factory when they don't really know what's going on behind the whole deal between them. So I'm so excited. This is great. Okay.
I can just imagine as well the Rebs, with their sort of spyglass, and then being interviewed by their sergeant or whatever later, their superior. Okay, guys, what can you tell us? There was a spaceship. I'm going to say it was black or maybe dark blue or grey. Sorry. Super, right.
I'm colorblind, I don't know.
Yeah. It all happened so fast. I didn't get the license plate.
I hid the whole time under a trash can because shots were flying everywhere, and I was so afraid. And it's the only one that survived to come back and report, and he has seen nothing at all.
Oh, but Clem, they had to do their job. They were just reporting. It's no good getting themselves killed, is it? They're on a spy mission. Great. Right. Should we go to the Marauders brief?
Yeah, you want me to read that one?
Yes, please.
Okay. We've been stationed on this remote planet for a long time without much going on. Boring, but at the same time, we're being paid, and our presence alone probably deters any Rebs from interfering with production in this facility. They've ambushed some of our patrols, as we've lost a few men over the past few months. They're surprisingly good, but we've never caught them.
Ta-ta-ta.
And then shall I do the Enforcer mission brief, Clem?
Should you do it? Yes, please.
Our agent within Maison Labs has initiated the evacuate and cleanse protocol. Our team must go in, recover our critical data, and erase all evidence of what happened. Just another day for the Enforcers, isn't it?
Peak Enforcers.
Yeah.
That's exactly
for them,
what
that's just a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Now, I think we can go into the actual practical infos for what the game one will actually be, right? And so what did we say? Yeah, for the first game, you will play the scenario Fighting Withdrawal. It's page 63 of the book. And with the Enforcers as the attacker and the Marauders as defenders, kind of makes sense.
Sorry, Clem, can I ask a stupid question? That's the Command Protocols book, obviously.
Of course, yes, the latest rule book. And that's one of the narrative scenarios. And so the table should represent the entrance of a research facility, or maybe even better if it's like the military barracks of the Marauders. They're kind of on the outside of the research facility, and they have their own, barrackments and some buildings like the quarters, like the military force that is stationed near the research facility. And basically what happens, as you could guess from the brief, is the Enforcers are taking the Marauders by surprise, like they're arriving on planet, they're arriving at the research facility. And the Marauders are kind of trying to retreat from there and fall back to their defensive positions at the research facility. And the Enforcers are trying to, eradicate the Marauders that are blocking them from entering the facility. And that's about it for the scenario.
That's excellent. I'm super excited. That flows right into the last game we played, and we're all set up to play tomorrow, so that'll be really fun. Should we talk about what's really going on from the Marauders and Enforcers perspective now, or should we wait until we do the battle report later?
Well, we can get started on it if you have some ideas already. Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So what we've kind of talked about on the back end for our armies is that these Marauders are being hired by a company, a GCPS company called the Talkion Enclave. And these guys had produced food and water purifiers and stuff, but they had been faulty for a long time. And so they've been getting investigated, and were about to basically get the axe from the council. And they panicked and decided to go Reb. And so it still makes sense because the Rebs are disorganized and don't talk with each other all that much. And so the Talkion Enclave has been hiring Marauders to kind of protect them and get them some resources so they can make their way out to the frontier. So the last game we played, when they took that Maison facility, we're like, okay, so they're getting some medical supplies to kit out the Talkion Enclave. All right. And so now they've raided the place. But that's obviously not what it looks like to the Rebs who are already on Tercia. And so this is gonna go so well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like as we mentioned initially, with the unreliable narrator, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And you can have different perspective over the same story. and branch out in a different way. And it's always kind of like this with improv, right? Like you always have yes and type of situations where you always build up on top of what's going on and then just follow your mood into what you want to explore next. Absolutely.
And in terms of forces people could bring to the table, I mean, we've already kind of discussed you can play whatever kind of points level you like. It would be great, I think, if there was an enforcer bomber or something like that there. That would make perfect sense to me in terms of the forces on the table.
Yep, we don't have any flyers yet, but maybe someday. Yep, we've got plans to build our armies up, but we've got the 1,000 points on the table right now, and this year we're probably going to do a bit of a Kings of War slow grow, but also looking forward to Epic Warpath and building up the firefight armies we have. So we got some goals, but little by little.
I mean, you could entirely play this with the tiny scale, the new rules coming out, right?
Sure.
Oh, absolutely. It's so many universes, so little time, right? That's
exactly
kind of always the same. But sounds good to me. And for other factions, I think almost whatever faction you come up with for the attacker and defender in the quick fluff intro that we gave here, I could come up with an explanation why it's the Asterians and not the Enforcers, or why it's GCPS and not Marauders, and so on and so forth. So you could always kind of play around a little bit, and just use your imagination, guys, and adjust it to whatever you like.
I mean, if you play the Defender as the Maison Labs, you barely have to change it, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, then it works immediately. Absolutely. All right. I think this is where we can pause for, go and play game one. And
kick me out,
Zach,
you mean?
Kind of, yeah. I'm too nice to say
your
this.
words, not ours, but...
No, I'm looking forward to it.
Right.
And I love the surprise. I can endure the suspense. I'm super excited. You guys are doing great. It's been a pleasure being on and chatting with you guys, and hope we can do it again soon.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about the debrief once you've played the 3 games. Hopefully soon.
I'm genuinely looking forward to listening to see what happens.
Yes, me too.
I mean, could we not do a quick debrief after this game and then give him the next bit of information? Is it, if we could keep it down to like 10-15 minutes, is that something we could do with time zones?
We might. It's just it takes more synchronizing.
It can be a little bit tricky. I like Clem's idea of doing them all with pauses, and we can go and listen and play, personally. Cool.
Yeah, I think it makes it easier on everyone, and then we just have 2 episodes.
I shouldn't have thrown a wild card out there. As we've discussed everything at length.
No, it's good to discuss it while we go through it. That's how it works. It's a community effort, right? So, absolutely.
Fantastic. Then, Zach, we'll let you drop off now, buddy. Thank you so much. As always, a real pleasure. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you guys.
It was fun.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. All right. Have a great Sunday, and we'll see y'all later.
You too, buddy.
See you later. Bye-bye.
We will be back after these short messages.
Hey there, I'm Brian.
And I'm Rick.
From Dead Zone, the podcast.
And you're listening to Mantic Universe Podcast.
For everything Mantic under the sun.
This is Max McDougall saying, so much universe, so little time.
Yes, so now hopefully you guys have played game 1. So the retreat of the Marauders inside the research facility. And now we will talk about game 2. So if you haven't played game 2 yet, you should definitely pause the episode right now and go play the game 1, and otherwise, here we go. Do you want to read the Rebs report, Chris?
Yes, so Rebs report. The battle lasted only a very short time. The unknown attacker moved in quickly, but not quick enough to eradicate all of the mercenaries, who fell back deeper into the facility. We need to take some risks and follow them inside the facility to understand what is going on and what the facility is actually doing. 2 birds with 1 stone. Oh, I love this guy. So the Marauders. What the heck was that? I think Marauders might use another word, but let's go with heck. It took us completely by surprise, but our superior training allowed us to get back to our protection job ASAP. We must protect our client from this attack at all costs. And then the enforcers. We didn't expect resistance from the marauders on this facility, but it won't stop us from achieving our mission. We need to retrieve the scientists and plague subjects before anyone else makes a move. Oh. So presumably they're using marauders because, as we all know, marauders cannot contract the plague.
Da, da, da. Who
Very
knows,
nice,
right? All right.
Who knows?
So, scenario info for game 2. So for this game, you will play the scenario Evacuate, which is page 61, or alternatively, you could play Lab Raid, page 59. It's kind of depending on your preferences and the terrain you have, and also you could potentially adjust it a little bit depending on how game 1 went, because obviously we don't know how your game 1 went yet, because you haven't played it. And one additional piece of information for you guys is the VIP that you use in the scenario Evacuate should be either plagued subjects or like Mason Lab scientists if you have something like this. But also, some of these could be Marauders models, as there seems to be something going on in the research center. I'm not saying too much, but there is, weird stuff going on. All right, and so if you are participating in the campaign and haven't played the game 2, you should stop listening right now, and we will back after these messages for details about game 3.
The Mantic Universe Podcast. So much universe, so little time.
All right, now we're back for game 3, so hopefully you had a good time playing game 2. And if you haven't played it yet and you don't want spoilers, you definitely should stop the listening at this point. Otherwise, I think Chris can read us the brief or report from the Rebs for Game 3.
We have successfully infiltrated the research facility on the heels of the retreating marauders. What a mess! The interior of the building does not look like a standard production centre, and more like a military research hospital of some sort. To be safe from all parties involved, we had to hide during our infiltration, and could only hear the noises from the battle. We wish we had not heard them, and can only be thankful we didn't see who, or rather what, was in the cells. Ooh. So, and apologies, I'm going to have to swear, dear listener, so this is the Marauders brief for Game 3. Those
you can
bastards.
Adjust if you want. I didn't put too many.
Oh, those cheeky ones. Our comrades didn't fall to ambushes from the Rebs, but were captured by Mason Labs and tortured for whatever reason. The attackers were protecting the Mason Lab scientists and trying to take their prisoners off planet. We have been betrayed, and we must escape this hellhole to warn the rest of the company. And the enforcers do what enforcers do. We have recovered scientists and evidence. Now we need to finish the job and erase all signs anything ever happened here. Folks, you know what to do. They sure do. Cool.
Business as usual. It's like a Tuesday afternoon, as you said, right?
Yes. For everyone else, this is a catastrophe. For the enforcers, this is just a Tuesday. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super then. So perfect. So obviously, feel free, dear listener, to flex things. Clem.
Wait, we haven't told the scenario that they need to play for Game 3.
Yes. So for Game 3, you're playing Take and Hold.
Yes.
Which is page 57 of Command Protocols. The centerpiece should be a transmission antenna center, or perhaps a Marauder spaceship to evacuate the planet. Brilliant. So that's really cool. That's going to look great on the table, Clem. And something many players will have lying around.
Yeah, I think so. I just wanted to mention quickly, I think the narrative scenarios from Command Protocol, they are not on the companion for some reason. I think that's kind of a bug. I think I've reported it, and I'm not sure if it's been fixed yet. So hopefully, if you don't have the book and only the companion, you can still find the narrative scenarios. And if not, we just need to complain louder to Mantic so that they, fix this small issue. And what should we do now, Chris? Do we want to talk about how we started, like the overall plot with all of the spoiler alerts, to explain what's actually going on the planet? or should we leave this as a secret or a surprise for the debrief episode for next time?
Let's leave it for next time. Let's get it in the debrief. Because otherwise it'll tempt people to listen to the bit they shouldn't listen to.
Sounds good. All right, then. I hope the guys will enjoy the campaign, and I hope also that you, if you decide to play it, will have a good time with it. And we'll debrief and hear what they have to say in the next crossover episode.
Thanks, dear listener. Thanks, Clem.
Bye-bye.